Hello, today I'm going to demonstrate and show you how to listen for payments on the Ripple network using the Websocket API and how to create a Node.js Websocket server and deploy that and listen for payments on the Ripple network to your account in real time. So if we look at ripple.com/wiki/Websocket API, we see that in order to listen for ledger transactions on the API, on the network, we subscribe to, or we connect to a Ripple server using a WebSocket client. I'm going to use the JavaScript WebSocket client for Node. And here is WSS s1.ripple.com. And in order to actually subscribe and start receiving payments, you send a subscribe command over the WebSocket to the server that you're connected to, and you tell it which streams of payments you want to listen for. In this case, the example is just ledger, which is all ledger close events, which includes all payments on the network. And so first I'm going to show example, just listening for all the payments on the network, and we can look at what the raw data looks like. Okay, in order to show this to you, I'm going to use an example library that I built, and I'm going to show you how this works, and I'm going to lean on this to get some code examples. The idea of this library is that you can tell it which accounts you want to listen to, and just call connect, and it will start sending you payments for that account. This is what a Ripple transaction JSON object looks like, that after it's been formatted, but all of this information is there. Who issued the currency, who sent the currency, what type of money was sent, what type of money was received. All right, so I'm going to start by going to my desktop and creating a new project. I'm going to say this is Ripple Listener Node. And then I'm going to go in there, Ripple Listener Node. And I'm going to first initialize a Git repository because I want to keep everything in Git. And then I'm going to create a server.js. And this server is going to be a WebSocket client that it starts up, it connects to the web server, and just listens on the WebSocket pretty much indefinitely. Okay, so what is that going to look like? We want to require the WebSocket library. And in order to get that, we need to use a package.json and use npm. So I'm going to copy over a package.json and install. Actually, right now, I'm going to just, instead of doing that, just say npm install ws, and this will install the WebSocket package for you. Okay. I want to connect to WSS, which is a secure, WS is WebSocket protocol, WSS is secure encrypted WebSocket protocol using TLS. And creating a new WebSocket is pretty easy. All I say is WebSocket equals new WebSocket. And then into that I pass my WebSocket URL. And that will create a new WebSocket object. What the WebSocket then is going to do is connect to the server, establish a WebSocket connection, which is a TCP connection, persistent TCP connection. And then it's going to send events like connected and closed and error and other events and message events. So the first thing I want to do to just show you how the WebSocket works is implement WebSocket.onConnected. So WebSocket is an event emitter, which means you can say WebSocket.onConnected, and that will allow you to pass a callback function to call when it's connected. And then we can say console.log connected to the Ripple payment network. Okay. Now when we say node server.js, it's going to fire up a WebSocket connection and connect to a Ripple D server, hopefully. And apparently I didn't use the right call. It's on open. So if I do on open, there we go, connected to the Ripple payment network. Now there's also another call, another event on message. And on message is where the bulk of what we want is going to come across. On message. And I'm just going to say console.log message and then the message. Now this function will pass the message in. And now whenever we receive a message, it will log the message. Right now though, we're not going to see a message because we haven't subscribed to any ledger events, any transactions, any payments at all. In order to subscribe to the ledger, we issue this command, subscribe, like this. In JavaScript, we want to create a string with this command, and we want to send this command after we connect to the WebSocket. So once I've connected, I'm going to say WebSocket.send and then my message. And now that should subscribe me to the network. All right, look, we're getting messages. These messages are ledger close events. The ledger closes every few seconds, and it has a hash and an index number. Here you got 85, 86, 87, 88, 89. These are ledger close events for the entire network. I actually just want to listen for transaction events that are related to my personal account. And in order to do that, we want to use a different URL. So, a different command. Our current subscribe command subscribes to the ledger streams, which is all the ledgers. I want to use a different subscribe command that subscribes to accounts, and I can pass in an array of accounts. Okay, so instead of streams, I say accounts, and then here I get my Ripple address, the account I want to listen to. So I'm going to go ahead and paste in my account. So hopefully now whenever I send a transaction to that account, I will be able to see that over here. Now let's try again. I'm going to send the message to subscribe, and it says status success. So hopefully that means that I'll see transaction to that account. Now in order to actually see if this works, I'm going to log into the Ripple client where my wallet is stored, and I'm going to just use my test account. Okay, so it says I can send them 100 ripples, and I can use Bitcoins or silver or US dollars even. Wow, I'm gonna go ahead and send them silver. All right, oh, great. So if you look over here, I just sent 100 XRP to that account, and it came across here in our listener. We're listening live for this account. So that is wonderful news. Okay, now that we are listening on our account, I want to format this JSON so that it looks way better and we can actually handle it. In order to do that, if we remember, the goal of the project is to be able to see something like this. And I created a class called payment.js, and you pass a raw transaction to the payment, raw transaction message, and it will parse that and return a really nicely formatted payment object. And I use this in the Bitcoin Ripple payment bridge. So, how am I going to handle this? I am going to copy down my payment object, and I'm going to say payment.js, and then I'm going to paste the contents of my clipboard into the payment. We can see, there we go. And if we open up payment.js, here's what we have. Now payment.js is listening for this environment variable Ripple address. And in order to set an environment variable, we do export Ripple address equals the address. And in this case, the address is this account. And we want our account to be configurable so that anyone can use this library with any account. So I'm going to actually make this part of the environment, and then go back in here and actually remove the address and say this is going to be process.environment.ripple address. Okay. It should work because I exported to my environment in this shell, and I'm still able to listen on that. So if I want to send them some more money, I can go ahead and send XRP, and it will show up here in the network. Awesome. Now I'm going to go back over to my server. I want to be able to parse out this message right here. And I want to do something like payment equals new payment. Pass the message. Now the message might change for different message formats, and I don't know if I'm handling them all, so I'm going to use JavaScript's error handling. Try, catch, and catch the error. And just, I say console.log the error. And if I do get a payment, I want to log the payment. And it has this nice toJSON method. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and check to see, is that how I did it? Yeah, payment equals new payment. Great. The last thing I need to do is require the payment file. In Node.js, I just require payment, which is relative to this file, server.js, just one in the same directory, and then payment. Okay, I'm going to remove my console.log of the whole unparsed message, and then I'm going to actually call the toJSON function here, and then when I restart my server, restart my listener that's connects to a RippleD server, and I send a payment to the I'm going to send 10 XRP. Okay. Ha! There we go. You can see that the transaction state is test success. Transaction hash that every transaction has is here. The to currency is XRP, and the from currency is XRP. And here we have the to and from addresses. Really briefly, I'm going to send some other currency to just show. I'll send 23 cents. Okay, here came the second one. Okay, so for this one, the from issuer actually issued US dollars, as you can see. And it was 23 cents US dollars for 100 XRP. Now, if we take a look at the payment.js, I'll just show you really quickly how this works. It parses out the raw JSON because the JSON is fairly structured, or it's fairly deeply nested. You got transaction.amount.value, transaction.amount.currency, and issuer. Same with synmax. Synmax is the amount money that the person sent, and amount is the amount money that the person receives. Then you have the destination and the sending account, of course, and then the transaction hash and the destination tag. And I bundle all of these things up. In the constructor, I set the values, and then to JSON, I just return them here. Very simple. And there you have that. Now this makes it really easy for us to do things like make automatic payments or update accounts at a gateway when a new payment comes in like this. Now, the one problem here is that our WebSocket will open up, and then if it fails, then we're kind of out of luck. Because let's just imagine that the connection was dropped, which happens with WebSocket servers. We want to restart the WebSocket. That would involve creating a new WebSocket object. So I want to encapsulate all of this logic into a function. I'll say the function is just connect. In connect, we create a new WebSocket. Then we listen. And then we listen for close. Now if it closes, we call connect again. That way we have a perfect loop that continually connects and subscribes, and when it closes, it just reconnects. And finally, we have to actually call connect. It's pretty simple. Now if we restart, everything's the same, but it won't fail. Okay, now I want to finally show you how can we get this set up to work with Heroku and actually deploy it. So Heroku requires a proc file, and Heroku will look at this proc file to determine which processes are running. And inside that proc file, I'm going to define one task, web, which will just start our server. Okay, perfect. Then we also need a package.json. And the package.json will pull in all of our dependencies, which in this case is only the Websocket library. I usually just copy over a package.json from another one of my projects. And this is no different. I'll just copy that. So we have the WebSocket library, Ripple account listener. I don't have any tests, so no dev dependencies. Yeah, that's it. Now I can run npm install, and this will install the packages I need locally, and this will run on Heroku. So now if we look at our Git, running git status, here I'll show that again, git status. We have our package.json, and we have our payment.js, and our server.js, and our proc file. Now we're going to commit these. We don't need to commit node modules because this will be rebuilt when we run npm install. So I'm going to commit this and make it, I'm going to create a server to listen to the Ripple WebSocket network. And finally, I want to create a Heroku application. If you have the Heroku gem installed or the Heroku tool belt, you can do Heroku create Ripple listener app. That's going to create an app on Heroku named Ripple listener app. And then I can push that app to Heroku. While it's pushing to Heroku, I'm going to pretend that I am Heroku and start my WebSocket using Foreman, which is how they will start it up. Okay, I immediately notice that the account is undefined. It hasn't been set. And remember, the account is the Ripple address environment variable that we want to set. The Ripple address environment variable needs to be set using the Heroku config set command, which sets environment variables. And I'm going to get the Ripple address. That will set up the environment in Heroku. And now if we look at our Heroku logs for this app, we'll see that we actually do connect. We have this success connect. So if I send a payment, and remember this is Heroku, this is a live production server. It's so simple to set up these. I actually use this same mechanism and some other tools for the gateway, Bitcoin gateway. Great. So now our Heroku is listening, and what we can do now is something like we receive a payment, and then we update our gateway, maybe using the gateway API that I've been working on. Here we've got the gateway accounts REST API. this gateway REST API is going to use a listener like this, listen for the gateway's account, and actually update balances. So whenever I get a transaction coming in on my account, I say, oh, here comes a Ripple transaction, and this one is an incoming transaction, so it's a deposit into one of my accounts. So I post using that Ripple address to deposits, which creates a record in my gateway account. And so that's just an example of how you could use this. Another way that I'm using this type of thing is in the Bitcoin bridge. When a payment comes across, I then send out a equivalent payment to a Bitcoin address using real Bitcoins on the Bitcoin network. And to do that, I actually use the Coinbase API. And so, all right, yeah, I created this Coinbase Node project, and it lets you create a Coinbase API client using an API key, and then just you get to send Bitcoins to a Bitcoin address. And yeah, you can see that here, client.sendMoney. And that's actually being used here in this project. It's very similar, as you can see, to the other listener project, except it actually calls Coinbase client send money to the Bitcoin address that's associated with this payment. All right, well, in the future, I'll show you how to do more with payments, more with the JavaScript library and Node.js using Ripple and the Ripple payment network.